Hey everybody, it's Trainers103 here today with another ranked analysis. We are looking at the Pole of Force here, playing a Derpits on Mountain Range. Not really a map I'm that big of a fan of, to be honest. I never was a fan of this map in the Clan Battles game mode, and I definitely am not a fan of it now here in ranked either. I think it's a pretty big mess of a map. It's not really well made overall. Charlie is a big clusterfuck. This island, you know, all the different positions you can take, the hydro stuff, get yourself locked down. It works in clan battles to an extent because you have the entire team coordinating, but in ranked it really is just a big mess. Anyways, let's see if we can actually get the ship build thingy up. No, it doesn't seem to want to work. But having a guess at the captain build, we can see that we don't actually have superintendent for heals. 5 planes down here. We have no survivability expert. I'm assuming that we're at full secondary spec Turpits, so we probably have AFD manual secondaries, putting us already at 8 points there, which means we need 14 to get that. So I'm assuming we're running basic survivability and what is it called again? BFD, basic firing training, because we don't have a full concealment build. This would be down to like 12 points something, I think. So I think I'm actually not sure with the Turpits anymore, because I don't play the ship anymore. I don't like it that much, to be completely honest, anymore. I used to love the German battleship up to tier 8, but now I don't really like them. But regardless, I'm assuming we're going to be running a pretty heavy secondary spec on this thing, considering the fact that we don't have a superintendent, and we're now advancing rather aggressively towards an area where we can, you know, put those secondaries to use. Speaking of battleships, though, we've got a Turpits double Bismarck on the enemy team, while we only have 2 of the German battleships. But then again, having an Alabama and a North Carolina in a game where there are destroyers isn't that too bad overall, because they're, first of all, better at deleting destroyers, and also the Alabama has that torpedo bulge, which allows it to tank destroyers. Anyways, this shift thingy is now gone for the rest of the replay, hopefully. And we're kind of basically advancing into a position where we're just going to get ourselves stuck. Like, I watched this replay earlier. I actually tried to record it yesterday after the stream, but got a bit tired. And I didn't really like what I ended up with. But normally, like, I would not suggest you just go here, because, I mean, the destroyer's in the cap, this guy's in the caps, our secondaries are now opening fire on it. You know, you can see we don't have any secondaries, but why? I personally would suggest going wide, because, let me just bring the ship up, because nothing really interesting can happen with our guns here. You can see without no more ability to target the Bismarck. This is more going to be a strategic cost of this map, rather than the individual skill of our player and what he does, as we do evade a torpedo salvo that didn't really have much of a chance to nail us. But going here into the open, and you can see I don't think we have basic survivability either, unless we're missing the signal and the upgrade, but you know, being able to go down here instead means that, you know, this North Carolina and us have a little bit of a different angle against the Bismarck. So if he wants to turn out in any way, shape, or form, he's going to at some point give one of us perfect broadside and then the other one a perfect broadside, whereas if he, you know, goes just to turn away like, you know, this, then he's just going to give us perfect broadside at one point, whereas he turns like this, he's going to give it to us here, he's going to give it to him there, he's going to give it to us there, and when he turns around, he's still going to give a broadside to the North Carolina when he's perfectly angled to us again, before he loops back around again, and, you know, we're badly angled against him, but he's going to give it an angle, so, you know, it doesn't, in the end, kind of stack up, and it does actually matter. Regardless, using our first heal a little bit early, slightly late here as we ram into the Lol Yang a little bit, but the point I'm trying to get across is blobbing battleships is not really a good idea. This Alabama is, we see in the corner of our screen now, he's probably about to find himself under a bit too much focus, but, you know, this guy's kind of trying something along the lines of the idea, but like he should be wider out here and not as far ahead. Kill the Bismarck, push the North Carolina, and we'll be able to get through, while this Alabama is sucking the attention of the Bismarck and Turpits over there, right? Anyways, let me actually get back to individual player camera here. As you can see, our secondaries have done a pretty good plinking on this Bismarck, but you can see the issue with the Bismarck class battleship, as we're getting hammered, so we're not really getting any part of this capture anyways, because, you know, we're just going to be reset, and you can see we get reset at the end of it. You know, so, you know, we don't even get the cap there, but the point I'm trying to make here is just the fact that, well, we've got 8 guns. And they're not like incredibly strong guns like this guy's guns. And half of them are facing forwards, half of them are facing backwards, and we can't use the back half to shoot someone unless we want to give a bit of a mediocre angle against someone. Like, you can shoot all the guns at range where you can quickly re-angle yourself. You can't do so when you're sitting stationary, blinking away with secondaries, right? So we're pretty much at this point just bleeding a large amount of health without really achieving anything. And considering the fact that we're basically only able to use half of our frontal firepower and the secondaries are not all fully angled either, as we do pick up the... didn't actually see it, but you can see this guy isn't shooting. This 15 centimeter gun mount is not engaging anything, right? So yeah, using our second heal of the game here, and I mean, we're still pretty much just bogged down here. And what's happening is that while we did kill the Bismarck, this guy lost half his health, we lost half our health, you know, this guy's lost more than half his health, and our Alabama's already dead, while this guy's lost half his health to the Alabama. This guy is now moving into a bit of a weird position against a full HP Tirpitz. This guy's, I mean, compared to him, is slightly worse, but, you know, it's enough to go. We do decide to shoot the broadside of the Bismarck as we've reversed out here, but like that guy's still full HP, that guy's, the Tirpitz over there's full HP, and we achieved nothing against the Bismarck with that salvo, and now we're on fire again. So, pretty much the point of this is just saying, in ranked battles, stop blobbing the battleships and get them split up, get into good firing angles, and, you know, start whittling away at people's health. Like, at this point, we've basically captured Charlie, but we've lost A and B, so we're now still in a points disadvantage situation. Granted, the Luoyang is smoking up again, so we can use our secondaries, but the North Carolina can't do anything with the smoke. Like, the North Carolina is 100% useless with his smoke, because, you know, the North Carolina doesn't have the secondary range, so the moment he fires his main battery, he's going to get spotted, he's going to get shot at, and he's still going to trade inferior health. So I guess for the moment we're just trying to use the smoke screen to do a little bit of damage with our secondaries without firing a main battery out of it. But in the end, this isn't really efficient means of dealing damage. So the options here, you know, after we have kind of gotten ourselves bogged down here, in my opinion, the options were really either disengage, get the crap out of here, go somewhere else, because sitting here, we've got the Charlie cap, that North Carolina doesn't look too interested to push, but, like, do I think this game can be won at this point? And in all honesty, I'm going to say no. I don't think this game at this point can be won. Our battleships are way too low on HP at this point. So for us to win, we would really need to drastically get out of the area, you know, and start, you know, isolating enemies, for example, the Tirpitz or the North Carolina, and basically eliminate them. Right now, our main force is closer to the enemy North Carolina, so, you know, that might be an option, but if we basically get ourselves into a position where we basically just sit here, we're just awaiting our fate, because we've got a grand total of 2 squares of map control. They've got this cap, anchor down there in the North Carolina, flanking force coming there with a German battleship led, with a Charles Martel that can kite. So, you know, it's more just that overall, you know, while the team composition of our team, honestly, I would say is superior, because fewer German battleships, you know, we had a Luoyang, they had a Benson and a Z-23, you know, we had a Benson and a Luoyang, so, you know, in just upfront capabilities, our team is superior. But, you know, if you don't have the map positioning, and this is something that we as Omni experience, well, enough on this map, if you don't get the good positions that you want, you know, if the enemy gets a bit lucky and force you away, or they decide that they're going to force you away, and you do get forced away from the positions you need to be in, you're going to be in a lot of trouble for the later stages of the battle. Regardless, the Benson decides to pop up. I'm pretty sure we just ordered our secondaries to plink it, but he's going to go invis too fast to be able to do anything about it. And without having disengaged now, I think we're probably going to find ourselves engaged by both the Tirpitz and the North Carolina, probably likely to find himself wanting to move up at some point in his life rather soon. Z-23 is now behind us, so the Bismarck is probably about to get screwed. Bismarck trying to disengage himself off being in this area is a pretty good thing overall, but I think he's just way too low HP to actually achieve anything. I mean, look at his health now compared to that. The Z-23 torpedoes maybe have had something to do with that, and then a full HP Tirpitz showing up is not so good. Anyways, we get pretty lucky here with the battleship gap from the Benson torpedoes. Like, we don't need to do anything, and North Carolina doesn't need to do anything. That's a spot lock, and it looks like we get a very good vertical dispersion, so we do actually pick up the Benson as well there, so good riddance there, but we still have some torpedo evasion to do. Looks like we're going to slot ourselves between... Ooh, we can't accelerate too much, we need to stop and drop immediately. There is a nice battleship gap there, but if we don't immediately stop and drop, we're going to suck this torpedo, and that would mean that we're going to lose a lot of health, and if it floods us, we're going to lose our damage control party, and unfortunately I think that's going to happen. There we go, we lost our damage control party, and have now expended our final heal with the North Carolina, now also pushing into our crossfire. So we're in a really, really horrible position here. It looks like we're going to try to trade the North Carolina. Normally I suggest not dispensing skill until the last possible moment. We do still have sufficient health, and the Turpets just salvaged the NC. But we're going to lose a lot of our HP here trying to achieve anything, and, well, for the enemy team to win this, to lose this at this point, even if they trade the North Carolina honestly did make a mistake by revealing himself and trying to close a distance on us, a Turpets. I mean, what the North Carolina could have done is I think we tried to target his guns a little bit too high. He could have shot HE at our broadside if he had it loaded here in an attempt to crit or destroy our torpedo tube. But the North Carolina also screws up by forgetting the point where our launcher is. It's at the center back of our ship, and basically commits suicide. So we actually might have if this Loyang survives, if we kill the Z-23, we actually have a very, very small chance of surviving this, not surviving, we're gonna die, most likely. We don't have the health, we're out of heals. But if the Z-23 can be killed, and if we'd snapped our guns around on the Z-23 slightly earlier, we need to aim a little bit, yeah, there you go, much better shot there. If we can kill the Z-23 with a bit of good dispersion, which we don't, so he's now hydroing the Loyang as well. But if we can kill that, and, you know, get away from this Turpets, and the Loyang can just torpedo the Turpets to death, you know, maybe even take back A or B and, you know, put ourselves in a position where it's not that bad. And this is the point where I would really have swapped back to HE. It's another thing I kind of want to mention is, if we're secondarying people, and I was focusing on mentioning something else, if we can actually focus on, you know, a ship with our secondaries, then there's no shame in actually shooting HE at said ship, because, you know, HE does still do damage, and against something angled with German AP, it's not really going to achieve much against them in all fairness. But with HE, and you can see the damage coming in here. This is against a Turpets that's not, well, he's not optimally angled, but he's not really sub-optimally angled either. Of course, against the broadside, we can easily hit for like 10k plus, but we're not. So the issue that we basically see here is, well, issue, something, you know, to consider. It's that there is no shame whatsoever in spamming HE, and there you go. Their secondary set us on fire, our Damacon is off, so we're screwed. And that's not the thing here. We basically bled way too much health in the beginning without being able to sufficiently trade down the opponent team, and that's basically meant we had no ability whatsoever to get back into this. You can see that with the enemy Turpets there. He's basically full HP in most of the games. He probably still had at least 2 or 3 heals left. And in this kind of a trading situation, even if we could, you know, sit there and secondary him for like 2 minutes inside a smoke screen and he just sat there without pushing us or anything, we still, you know, would have had a really hard time. Especially if the North Carolina didn't commit suicide on us. And I mean, he could have just made a aggressive impasse, and we would have had to, you know, close even more distance against them to get the torpedoes to ensure that at least, you know, 3 hit to kill him. But he didn't. He basically just turned and said, like, hi, please torpedo me. So I guess we shall oblige, am I not right? But yeah, it was a lot less about the actual gameplay of our player here, but it was more really about my gripes with this damn map. And like how I see it, and you know how I see it played compared to what I think it should be played in terms of getting at least for ranked. For clan battles, it's a bit of a different thing. But even then, if you know in clan battles, if you lock yourself into C, you've got a lot worse chance if you have nothing to do anything about the 1-2 line. And you saw that pretty much reasonably well executed by the opponent team. They left the North Carolina on the Charlie side of the cat to just lock down 3 battleships. For all intents and purposes, that guy almost single-handedly locked down 3 battleships. The Benson definitely played a part there. You know, the threat of torpedoes kind of kept the guys behind the islands, but the North Carolina doesn't have the ability to react to threats incoming on different angles, whereas, you know, the Bismarck class does, in a way. But then, We never, were able to breach the 9-10 line. The North Carolina kind of got bogged down. It's to be expected. It's a North Carolina. We got bogged down as well, so we didn't really have full usage of our firepower in that situation. And the Bismarck went in a bit of a weird and bad path there and kind of just lost too much health. And then losing the Alabama pretty much meant that we had less than half the health of the enemy battleships, combined total on each team, so we were basically at that point stuffed. Regardless, I hope you guys enjoyed this ranked analysis, ranked cast, and a map showcase of Mountain bloody range. I'm not really a fan of this in randoms. I definitely am not a fan of it in clan battles at all. Anyways, I hope you guys enjoyed this. I'll be streaming shortly as well. I also have a Discord now. There will be a link to it in the description below. Join that, ask me questions, talk to me, all sorts of fancy stuff there. It's just like any old other Discord, a nice place to be antisocial, I guess. No, not really much to say about it. It's just any old generic Discord where you can come out, hang out, spam craft, talk, content collection, or whatever. Anyways, take care, and I'd love to see you guys on my stream, twitch.tv/stranger's123. Hope to catch you guys there later in the evening. I'll be probably grinding some ranked.